The forgotten child on a distant planet called Caldron 7. Many different alien races lived side by side. It was a busy place, full of markets, bright lights, and strange food smells in the air. Humans had only arrived there a few years ago, but they built a small colony of their own. Most days were peaceful, with traders shouting prices and travelers passing by. Among the crowd was a little human girl named Emily Carter. She was only 7 years old, with short brown hair and bright green eyes. She loved visiting the market with her mother, but today she had come alone, running after her favorite toy that had slipped from her hand as she chased the small toy ship through the busy streets. She didn't see the group of tall, armored aliens standing ahead. These aliens belonged to the Ralgok Syndicate, a gang of violent mercenaries known for causing trouble. They didn't care about the laws of Caldron 7 or anyone else's safety. Emily's toy ship rolled right under their feet. Without thinking, she ran between them and bent down to pick it up. One of the Ralgaks, a thick-skinned brute named Kreth, snarled as the child brushed against his leg. He looked down, annoyed. "Watch where you're going, human scum," Kreth growled. Emily looked up, scared but too innocent to understand what danger she was in. She clutched her toy tightly and tried to say sorry. But Kreth wasn't interested in apologies. With a cruel smile, he raised his heavy boot and kicked the little girl hard in the side. Emily flew across the street and landed near a vendor's stall. People gasped. The street fell silent for a moment. No one moved to help her. The aliens laughed loudly. The leader of the group, a towering figure named Gorthan, spat on the ground and said, "Weak creatures. They don't belong in our galaxy." An old alien merchant nearby, a wrinkled being with silver eyes, shook his head sadly. He whispered, "Fools, you don't know what you've done." Emily lay still, her small body bruised and blood trickling from her lip. A few shopkeepers whispered to each other, but dared not step forward. No one in the market wanted to get on the wrong side. Of the Ralgaks, they had a reputation for violence and revenge. At a small security post nearby, a human officer named Jared Miles saw what happened. His fists clenched in anger, but he knew the local peace treaties made it difficult for humans to act without approval. Still, he activated a secure emergency beacon. A coded message was sent through space, straight to Earth Command Central. As the Ralgaks left the scene, mocking the terrified crowd, the old alien merchant approached the broken toy ship. Lying beside Emily, he picked it up gently, his eyes filled with sorrow. "You have made a terrible mistake," he whispered to no one in particular. Far above, in the blackness of space, something stirred. The coded message reached its destination. On a massive warship called the ISS Resolute, Commander Darren Rourke received the transmission. He read the report carefully. A child attacked. Human laws violated. An innocent hurt. Commander Rourke was a tall man with a scar running down the side of his face, a mark from an old battle long ago. He was known throughout the galaxy not for his kindness, but for his cold, ruthless justice. His ship was part of Phantom Squadron, a secretive human fleet that only appeared when situations demanded absolute action. Rourke stood up from his command chair. The officers on the bridge fell silent. "Prepare the fleet," Rourke ordered. His voice was calm, but everyone felt the danger in his words. One young officer hesitated. "Sir, should we wait for orders from the Galactic Council?" "Commander." Rourke looked at him, eyes sharp as knives. "They harmed a human child," he said coldly. "That's all the reason we need." Without another word, the human fleet began to move. Warships decloaked silently, like dark ghosts against the stars. Caldron 7 was about to receive visitors it would never forget. Back on the planet, Emily's small body was carried to a medical station. She was alive, but barely. The people of the market returned to their business, pretending nothing had happened. But above them, justice was on its way, and no one, not the Ralgak Syndicate, not the local council, not even the bystanders, had any idea of the storm that was about to fall upon them. The signal sent. Stars above Cauldron 7 glittered, like tiny diamonds against the darkness, silent witnesses to what had happened in the streets below. The attack on Emily Carter should have been just another crime in a lawless corner of the galaxy. But this time, things were different. This time, it was a human child. Inside the colony's main command center, Governor Marcus Hawley paced back and forth. The news had reached him within minutes. His face was pale, his hands shaking. He had seen bad things before, but this crossed a line. "Are you sure about this report?" Hawley asked. Jared Miles, the young officer who had sent the emergency message, stood stiffly. "Sir, I saw it myself. The Ralgaks kicked her into the street. She's in medbay now, barely alive." Governor Howell clenched his jaw. He knew the treaties tied his hands. The Galactic Council demanded calm, peace, and endless talks. But Hawley also knew something else. Humans had a rule, an old one, written in no official book, but known by every man and woman who left Earth's soil. "You don't harm a human child." Hawley turned to his comms officer. "Send the signal, sir." "Shouldn't we request permission from I said send it?" Hawley snapped. A coded emergency transmission burst through space, bypassing council channels and moving through private military networks known only to a few. Its destination, Earth Command Central, and from there to a name that made enemies across the galaxy shudder. Commander Darren Rourke. On board the ISS Resolute, the bridge was quiet. A long-range sensor officer noticed the incoming signal first. It was marked with a high-security clearance, a code rarely used. The officer swallowed nervously and handed the datapad to Rourke. The commander read it once, then twice. His expression didn't change. But the bridge crew knew something was about to happen. Without a word, Rourke tapped a command code into his terminal. A ship-wide alarm sounded. Lights dimmed and red strips lit the walls. Phantom Squadron, battle stations, the computer announced out across a hidden sector of space. Dark human warships emerged from cloak mode. Their hulls were black as night, their engines silent. Each one bore the mark of a ghostly white skull, the unofficial symbol of the Phantom Squadron. Rourke opened a channel. "Captain Solis, Captain Kellen, prepare your ships for rapid insertion. Cauldron 7 is about to learn what happens when someone crosses the line." His voice was steady, his words carrying weight far heavier than the metal around them. Back on Cauldron 7, the Ralgak Syndicate lounged in their hideout, drinking alien liquor and bragging about what they'd done. "Did you see her face?" Kref laughed, raising his mug. Pathetic little creature. Their leader, Gorthan, leaned back, sharp teeth glinting. "No one will dare challenge us. The humans are weak. They talk big, but they'll crawl behind their council's skirts." And old alien, the same merchant from the market, passed by outside their door. He muttered under his breath, "You've sealed your fate, idiots." Inside a small communications room nearby, Jared Miles monitored frequencies. Suddenly, his console lit up. Dozens of human ships had entered Cauldron 7's orbit without warning. Phantom Squadron. His eyes widened. "They're here," he whispered. "Governor." Hawley received the update moments later. Relief mixed with fear in his chest. Phantom Squadron's arrival meant no more politics, no more rules. It meant something final was about to happen. Above the planet, the ISS Resolute decloaked first. It was massive, its dark hull blocking the stars. No messages. No demands. Then, one by one, the other warships appeared like shadows surrounding the planet. Cauldron 7's defense systems hesitated. The local security forces sent a polite inquiry. The humans didn't answer. Commander Rourke simply gave one order. Begin. Stealth drones, nearly invisible to scanners, zipped through the planet's atmosphere. Their orders were clear. Track, mark, and report on every Ralgak position. Within minutes, our EPORTs poured in. Targets acquired, sir, a voice reported. On Rourke's earpiece, the commander allowed a thin smile. No warnings, no negotiations. In the Ralgok hideout, Gorthon noticed the sudden silence outside. No patrols, no customers in the nearby taverns. Even the streets seemed empty. He frowned. Something's wrong. One of his men checked the scanner. We've lost contact with our ship. Another screen blinked out. Then another. Panic crept into Gorthon's voice. Check comes. Find out what's happening. But it was too late. A stealth drone landed on the rooftop, quietly locking on to their location. Far above. Rourke gave a cold command. Mark them. They're done. The humans hadn't even fired a shot yet, but the fear had already begun. Asterisk. The reckoning begins. The streets of Caldron 7 were too quiet. Where there was once noise, trade, and laughter, now only the sound of distant wind moved through empty alleys. Windows were shut, doors locked. Every alien merchant, traveler, and citizen had vanished indoors. Even the city lights seemed dimmer. In their hideout, the Ralgek Syndicate sat uneasily. What had started as a night of drinking and celebration turned into nervous glances and tight grips on weapons. The walls felt like they were closing in. Gorthon, the gang's leader, paced the room. His sharp claws tapped against his belt. Something's wrong, he muttered. Kr ETH. The one who had kicked little Emily Carter scoffed. You're all acting like cowards. It's just a few human ships. We faced worse. But even he noticed the absence of their men. Patrols weren't checking in. Communications had gone dark. Their ships in orbit were no longer responding. The Syndicate was a lone dot, and far above them, the storm was coming. Inside the ISS Resolute, Commander Darren Rourke stood before a large holographic map of Caldron 7. Red markers blinked over every known Ralguk position. Drones fed live updates as their targets huddled together, completely unaware of just how close death was. The bridge crew worked in total silence. No one dared speak unless spoken to. Everyone knew the stories about Rourke, how he'd once wiped out an entire pirate fleet without firing a single warning shot. Rourke's reputation wasn't built on kindness. It was built on justice. Ruthless, exact, and final. He tapped the side of the hologram. Start isolating power grids. I want them in the dark. I, Commander. Within seconds, entire districts of the colony lost power. Streetlights blinked. Out. Security cameras shut down. The Syndicate's hideout, once protected by alarms and barriers, was now just another vulnerable building in the night. Back inside, Gorthon cursed as the lights flickered, then died completely. Backup generators kicked in, but their systems showed no outside feed. No scanners, no comms, no ship logs. What in the void is happening? One of his lieutenants panicked. Before Gorthon could answer, a message appeared on every screen in their room, a single line of text. We warned you. The Ralgaks stared, confused at first, then terrified. Kreth slammed his fist on the table. It's a trick, but Gorthon knew better. The old merchant's warning earlier that day now echoed. In his mind, you've made a terrible mistake. Outside, unseen by any eye, human stealth drones dropped small black spheres along the building's perimeter. These were ghost charges, weapons designed not to explode, but to emit disabling waves. No escape. Ships. No weapons activation. No shields. They weren't going to run back on the ISS Resolute. Rourke's second-in-command, Captain Solis, approached All Syndicate positions are isolated. No way out. Rourke didn't even look up. I want them alive. I'll deal with them personally. The crew exchanged quiet, uneasy glances. When Commander Rourke said those words, it meant one thing. There would be no mercy dot at the medical center. Little Emily Carter lay on a narrow bed, pale and still. Doctors worked to stabilize her, but her injuries were severe. Her small hand clutched tightly around her broken toy ship. Governor Hall stood at her side. His face, lined with worry and guilt, turned toward the window as he noticed the cities. Power fading. They're here, he whispered. One of the doctors looked up. Do you think it'll stop them? Hale shook his head. Not a chance, not this time. In the hideout, panic was complete. Ralgak mercenaries shouted at each other, grabbing weapons that no longer worked, trying to open doors that refused to unlock. One by one, their comlinks went silent. Then, the front door burst open, not with an explosion, but with a simple metallic thud. The room filled with thick black mist, disorienting, choking, making their eyes sting. Through the fog, shadowy. Figures moved, fast. Silent. One of the Ralgaks fired his blaster. It clicked USEL, ESSLY. Another tried to run, only to be grabbed by unseen hands and yanked into the darkness. GOR, in single quotes, heart pounded as he raised his plasma axe. Who's there? Show yourself. A voice spoke from the shadows. Commander Rourke, you crossed a line no one crosses. The mist cleared slightly, revealing Rourke's tall frame, black combat armor reflecting cold light. His eyes, hard as stone, locked onto Gorthon. You hurt a child, Rourke said quietly. Now you'll learn what it means to face humanity's hand. Kreth, shaking, tried to crawl away, his claws scraping the floor. A human soldier grabbed him by the collar, dragging him toward Rourke. No mercy. The soldier muttered. As the Syndicate's last defenders vanished one by one, Gorthon dropped. His weapon. His voice cracked. Please. We didn't mean to. Rourke stepped forward. It's too late for apologies. The Syndicate's nightmare had begun, and it wouldn't end until every one of them had paid. Asterisk. Total annihilation. The night over Caldron 7 felt heavier than before. Even the winds seemed to hold their breath. All across the city, aliens whispered. Behind locked doors, peering through cracked shutters, waiting for the storm they knew was coming. They didn't have to wait long. In the Ralgak hideout, terror had spread like wildfire. Their gang of ruthless mercenaries, once loud and fearless, now sat silent, weapons abandoned, faces pale. Gorthon gripped the table, sweat dripping down his scaly skin. How many are left? He demanded. No one answered. Their numbers had dropped without a sound. 1 minute, a mercenary was there, shouting, breathing. The next, gone. No cries, no blaster fire, just missing. It wasn't war. It was a hunt. Asterisk. Commander Darren Rourke watched from the command deck of the ISS Resolute. Holograms showed the Syndicate's remaining locations, marked like tiny red sparks, waiting to be snuffed out. Status. Rourke ordered. Captain Solis approached. All escape routes sealed. No ships have left orbit. The planet's defense system stands down. No one dares interfere. Rourke's gaze hardened. Then finish it. He tapped a control on his console. Across orbit, human warships locked. Onto remaining Syndicate ships still docked at Caldron 7 spaceport. No messages. No warnings. The warships fired. Beams of white-hot plasma tore through the darkness. The Syndicate's ships exploded like shattered glass, flames curling through the night sky. From the planet's surface, it looked as if stars themselves were falling. In less than a minute, the entire Syndicate fleet was gone. In their hideout, the Ralgaks heard the distant booms and felt the tremble beneath their feet. Their eyes widened. What was that? One whispered. A human soldier's voice crackled through the broken comm system. Just a single, cold sentence. You are next. Kreth whimpered. Gorthan's claws shook. They tried every door. Locked. Every weapon. Dead. We surrender. One shouted into the darkness. But no answer came. Because humanity wasn't here to bargain. At the colony's medbay, little Emily Carter stirred. Her tiny hand still clutched her broken toy ship. Governor Hall stood by, watching over her. A nurse entered, pale-faced. Sir, the Syndicate's fleet is gone. Phantom Squadron wiped them out. Halley didn't look surprised. That was never a question, he said quietly. The only thing left is the reckoning. Back at the Syndicate's lair, heavy footsteps echoed. Then the doors burst open. Commander Rourke entered, his combat armor smeared with ash, his soldiers moving like shadows behind him. Gorthan raised his empty hands. We give up. We surrender. This wasn't personal. It was just Rourke's voice cut through like a blade. It was a child. Kreth dropped to his knees, trembling. We will leave the planet, never return. The humans advanced, surrounding them. The mercenaries were dragged out one by one. Prisoners? A soldier asked. Rourke shook his head. No, the council can debate later. We deal with this now. One by one, the attackers were brought to the colony's central square. A crowd of alien citizens had gathered, watching in silence. No one cheered, no one spoke. Even they understood that lines had been crossed. Rourke stepped forward, his voice carrying over the crowd. This is what happens when you harm what is ours. Gorthan spat in defiance. You think killing us will scare the galaxy? You're alone. Rourke's reply was cold. We're never alone. Without another word, the phantom soldiers carried out the sentence. It was swift, merciless, and final. The Syndicate's leaders were erased from existence. No trial. No delay. The message was clear. *** later, holograms of the scene spread across star systems. The images of Rourke standing in that square, Syndicate. Members at his feet became legend. Galactic leaders whispered in fear. Even hostile alien empires took careful notes. No one wanted to be the next name on Phantom. Squadrons list. The price for harming a human child was no longer just war. It was annihilation. That night, the winds returned to Caldron 7. The stars above shone bright again. Markets reopened. Life slowly returned. But the name Phantom Squadron lingered in every conversation, spoken in low voices. And little Emily Carter, though still weak, opened her eyes for the first time since the attack. Governor Halley sat beside her. You're safe now, he said softly. She smiled faintly, clutching her toy ship. Far above, in the black of space, the ISS Resolute vanished into the void, leaving only silence behind. But every alien watching the stars that night knew, if anyone ever made the same mistake again, humanity would return, and next time there would be no survivors. The galactic message, the events on Caldron 7, spread faster than any official report. Before the sun even rose on the colony world, news of the Phantom Squadron's retaliation raced across trade routes, council outposts, and deep space stations. And everywhere it reached, one thing was clear. Humanity had sent a message, and the galaxy had heard it. On the capital world of Vorel Prime, deep within the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, a crisis meeting was called. Alien leaders of every major species gathered in the massive room, their faces grim. Holograms flickered in the air, showing images of burning ships, destroyed Syndicate outposts, and the executions in Caldron 7 Square. The council speaker, an ancient creature named Sotha-Len, spoke with a heavy voice. This was a violation of council law. A reptilian ambassador growled. The Ralgok Syndicate attacked a human child. The humans acted as expected. Another delegate hissed. They went too far. They wiped out an entire organization in one night. Silence followed. No one dared speak against Phantom Squadron too loudly. Not after seeing what they were capable of. Finally, a slender insectoid diplomat named Verakesh spoke what many feared. Perhaps it is wise to leave the humans alone. The chamber murmured in agreement. No one admitted it openly, but the message was clear. Provoking humanity now wasn't just dangerous. It was suicidal. On a distant farm world, a young alien mother named Ultra Ven sat with her son, watching the emergency broadcast. As the image of Commander Rourke standing over the defeated syndicate played, her child clutched her hand. "Who is that, Mama?" The boy asked. Ultra hesitated. "That," she whispered, "is what happens when you harm. They're young." The boy nodded silently, wide-eyed. Across thousands of worlds. That same moment repeated in homes, military bases, and back-alley taverns. The legends of humanity's fury, once just old soldiers' tales, were now undeniable truth. Meanwhile, back in orbit around Caldron 7, the ISS Resolute sent out one final transmission before vanishing into deep space. It wasn't a war report. It was a message from Commander Darren Rourke himself, broadcast across every open channel, bouncing off relay satellites, impossible to block. His face appeared on screens everywhere. Calm, emotionless, cold as stone. "This is Commander Darren Rourke of Phantom Squadron," he said, his voice steady. To those watching, the events on Caldron 7 were not war. They were justice. He paused. A child was harmed. An innocent. Our response was measured, final, and serves as a warning. Rourke's eyes locked onto the lens, and every viewer felt it. To any empire, syndicate, or outlaw who believes humanity weak, test us again, and your worlds will burn before your council meetings even begin. The screen went dark. The message had been delivered. Back on Caldron 7, in the colony medbay, Emily Carter slowly woke. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of machines. Governor Hale sat nearby, exhaustion heavy in his eyes. When he noticed her eyes open, he gave a small smile. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. "You've got the whole galaxy talking about you." Emily blinked. Did they find my toy?" Hale chuckled. "Despite everything." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out her battered toy ship. "Commander Rourke picked this up himself," he said, placing it gently in her hands. "Said it belongs to a brave girl." Emily's small fingers closed around it. "Is he still here?" she asked. Hal shook his head. "No, the Phantom Squadron doesn't stay long. They come when they're needed, and vanish when the work is done." Emily managed a weak smile. "Good," she whispered. "The bad guys are gone." Hale placed a hand on her shoulder. "They'll never hurt anyone again." That evening, the colony held a small, quiet memorial at sunset. Not to mourn the syndicate, but to remember the lesson learned that day. Humans were not the most powerful race in the galaxy. Not the richest. Not the most advanced. But they were the one race no one would ever underestimate again. Because when it came to protecting their own, especially a child, they became something no enemy could outrun, reason with, or survive. They became justice, and the galaxy would never forget it. Asterisk. Legacy of the Phantom Squadron years past. The incident on Caldron 7 became one of the most whispered tales in the galaxy. In dark taverns, among mercenary crews, and in council chambers alike, the name Phantom Squadron was spoken in hushed tones, not as a rumor, as a warning. The Ralgak syndicate was never rebuilt. No gang claimed their name. No one tried to avenge them. It was as if they had been wiped not just from the planet, but from history itself. Galactic law changed unofficially. No child, human or alien, was to be harmed. Not because it was law, but because the galaxy feared the answer, and the words of Commander Darren Rourke lived on long after the man himself vanished. Test us again, and your worlds will burn before your council meetings even begin. No one dared. On the 15th anniversary of the Cauldron 7 reckoning, a ceremony was held at Earth Memorial Garden. Leaders from many worlds attended. A quiet place with walls carved with names, not of the fallen, but of those who defended the innocent when no one else would. Among the visitors was a young woman with short, brown hair and bright green eyes, Emily. Carter. No longer the fragile child lying in a medbay. She had grown strong, sharp, and steady. A commander in her own right now, wearing a navy blue fleet uniform with Earth's insignia on her shoulder. But today, she didn't come as an officer. She came as the girl who survived. In her hand, she still carried her old, battered toy ship. Scratched and worn, it had traveled with her through every posting, every battle, every decision. She walked alone to a quiet corner of the memorial wall where no crowds gathered. The polished stone carried only one name, Commander Darren Rourke. Phantom Squadron. When justice calls, we answer. Below the name was no death date. No one knew what happened to him. After Cauldron 7, the entire squadron vanished back into deep space. No records. No sightings. Some said they disbanded. Others believed they still waited in the dark, watching. Emily placed the small toy ship at the base of the wall. "Thank you," she whispered. A breeze passed, stirring the grass and leaves around her. A moment, Emily could almost feel a presence beside her, calm, steady, like a silent guardian. She smiled. They were never truly gone. That same night, far beyond known star charts, in a stretch of deep space no map marked, a fleet sat quietly. In the void, no beacons, no broadcasts. Dark ships with ghostly white skull insignias. A single message blinked on a console inside the lead ship. Cauldron 7 anniversary complete. The ship's commander, face hidden in shadow, gave a small nod. Stand down. Await next. Call. The fleet remained motionless, invisible to scanners. Watching. Waiting. Somewhere, someday, another fool might test humanity's patience. And when that day came, the Phantom Squadron would rise again. Back on Cauldron 7, the colony had changed. Markets thrived. Different species traded, laughed, and worked together. The streets where a child once fell were now lined with trees, and a bronze statue stood in the square. A human soldier, holding the hand of a small child. Its plaque read, "Justice has no borders. Mercy has no weakness, and no child stands alone." Visitors from all worlds came to see it. Parents told their children the story. And everyone knew the unspoken rule. Never harm a human child. Never forget. Cal DR in -7. Emily Carter returned to her ship later that evening. As the engines hummed and the stars stretched before her, she took one last look at the memorial planet fading into the distance. Some things, she whispered to herself, are worth fighting for. And as her ship vanished into hyperspace, somewhere in the black, a fleet of silent watchers kept their promise, because Phantom Squadron wasn't a legend. It was a warning, and the galaxy would never forget. Asterisk. The unfinished warning in a quiet corner of the galaxy, where no official star maps reached, a lone freighter named the Stormvile drifted through space. Its crew of alien traders was finishing a long, uneventful run of cargo deliveries. Captain Dren Vos, a grizzled, scar-faced veteran of old conflicts, leaned back in his chair, watching the stars blur by. He sipped a steaming mug of bitter root brew and sighed. Finally, a quiet trip for once, he muttered. But fate had other plans. Asterisk. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Captain, "We're picking up a distress beacon," shouted the comms officer, a thin, pale creature with 4 yellow eyes. Vos sat up sharply. "Source?" The officer hesitated. "You're not going to believe this. It's a human code." That made Vos frown. Human distress beacons didn't activate without reason. And more importantly, humans never called for help easily. "Put it through." Voss ordered. The bridge fell silent as static filled the speakers. A voice crackled through the interference. At first, it was distorted, then clear. "Phantom. Activated. Do not intervene. Sector blackout imminent." Voss's heart froze. The blood in his veins turned to ice. He wasn't a fool. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. He thought it was just an old legend, a ghost story whispered in dark taverns. But no one used that word unless it was real. Phantom. His crew exchanged terrified glances. "Captain, what do we do?" Voss swallowed. "Plot a course away from this sector. Now. Full burn. But now." Asterisk. As the storm vial fled, Voss sent a silent message to an old friend, a retired council officer. His message was short. "Phantom signal detected. Moving out. May the void have mercy." The reply came seconds later. "Acknowledged. May we never meet them." Asterisk. In another part of space, a council security station picked up the same signal. Inside the control room, a young officer scanned the data logs, confused. "Commander, there's a human fleet activation code showing up in Ghost Sector 17. His superior paled. "That sector's empty." "Not anymore." They stared at the screen as the code repeated itself. "Phantom activated." The officer turned to his commander. "Should we report to the council?" The commander shook his head, his face drained of color. "No. Scrub the logs. Delete everything. You'll live longer that way." Asterisk. Back on Earth, in a sealed underground vault beneath Fleet Command, an old monitor flickered to life after years of silence. An AI voice calmly spoke. "Phantom code 119A acknowledged. Fleet status active. Awaiting primary directive." In a dark room, a single figure watched the message with cold eyes. An old soldier. A face few remembered, but every surviving council leader feared. He placed a hand on the console. "Times. Come," he whispered. The figure input a simple command. "Hold position." "Confirm watch." The reply came instantly, as always. Asterisk. Across a dozen systems, small unmarked human ships adjusted their positions in deep space. Systems silent, weapons primed. They weren't attacking. Not yet, but they were watching. Asterisk. And in a corner of Cauldron 7, where the old statue of the soldier and child stood, a small maintenance drone discovered something new etched into the base of the memorial. No one had seen it before. It wasn't official. It wasn't authorized. It was a message freshly cut into the bronze. "We never left." The drone paused, transmitted the image to the colony's security office, then shut itself down. Within minutes, the message was gone. Cleaned, covered, denied, but not before a copy of the image slipped into underground message boards. Private channels and encrypted fleets. By dawn, the entire Outer Rim knew Phantom Squadron still existed, and someone, somewhere, had just called them. No one knew where or why, but the old rule held firm. No one spoke their name aloud. No one asked questions. And no one, not pirate, empire, or council, dared harm a human child, because some legends didn't die. They waited. And in the blackness of space, humanity's silent guardians still watched. Asterisk.